and welcome to Quarter Time Podcast. I'm Lucy G.
And I'm Lucy P.
And we're here to bring you all the netball goodness you never knew you needed. Hello, and welcome back to a special bonus episode of Quarter Time Podcast. Oh, Lucy, it's been a while.
I know, it's been ages, hasn't it? I can't believe it. I had to dig out my microphone. It was all covered in dust. I was like, oh, God.
It's been a hot minute, but we have been super busy in the Vitality Netball Super League off-season. We've got our hands into a lot of commentary. Been trying out our commentary skills. We've done the NPL finals, the England Men's and Mixed Netball Association Nationals, and of course the school games as well. So lots of stuff going on in the off season, but back to the podcast today. Luce, what have we got coming up?
Okay, so on the show today, we'll be looking at each match from the England versus New Zealand Cadbury Netball Series, which just happened recently. Super exciting. I personally absolutely loved watching this series. It was so thrilling and so many great storylines. So we'll be touching on 3 key elements of each match that played a role in deciding the final outcome. And we'll each look at our standout players from both countries. So first of all, what were your overall thoughts on the series, Luce?
Oh my goodness. Like, this series was actually wild. Like the narratives and the swings in momentum and the swings in the scoreline across the whole series was absolutely incredible. And I think from a fan perspective, it was a real joy to watch because you never knew what was going to happen. You're on the edge of your seat constantly. I think just in general, it's been amazing to see international netball back again. I know we've had a couple of bits here and there, but obviously we had the postponement of the Constellation Cup. We've just heard about the cancellation of the England-Australia series. So a big shout out to Aussies who, you know, a lot of them are still in lockdown and it is so tough. So having this series means a lot to the netball family. So that was great. I think from a Rose's perspective, there were a lot of questions raised around the squad choices because obviously we know that Oisola, Dixon and Clark went out to New Zealand, but they didn't make the squad day list. So they didn't even get to sit on the bench. And I think there are a lot of questions around that as to why, you know, they've had to go through an awful long time quarantining. Their lives have been turned upside down to be able to go out there and not to even have the opportunity to possibly get out in court was raised a few eyebrows, I think.
Yeah, and Jess Thirlby said, oh, I don't give out test caps for free, basically, which I completely, you know, is fair enough. But I think that putting them at least in the match day 12 is, you know, better. I mean, and Hannah Joseph only played 2 minutes. So, you know, we didn't really get to see her as much as probably people were hoping. But anyway, we'll get back to that probably a little bit later on as well.
Yeah, definitely. But great to see a couple of Silver Ferns debuts. Obviously, we had Maturo, we had Nweki, we had Tong. So amazing to see them hit the court. And I think the other thing that this series raised from a fan perspective was questions and discussions now around the Com Game selection for the Roses. And we really saw a depth from the England players that we haven't necessarily had for quite a few years, if ever. But we'll touch on the Com Game selections a little bit later. What did you think?
Well, I think from an international perspective, I mean, this was the first ever series win for the Roses against New Zealand, which was incredible. I don't know if you noticed this, that one of the New Zealand commentators after the last game said, oh, do you think that England are becoming a force to be reckoned with on the international stage? And I was like, sorry, we're Commonwealth Games champions. I don't know if you've realised. And so being able to see this contest between obviously the Commonwealth champs and the world champs was incredible. And even though we were able to see the majority of the strength and depth that these two sides have, we were missing obviously a couple of key names. So from New Zealand, Ekenasio, Rore, Watson. In the second test, Gina Crampton. The third test, Maturo and Fitzpatrick as well. And then from an England perspective, obviously Housby, Harton, Haythornthwaite and Francis. So basically our entire front line from World Cup in 2019. So there was obviously heaps more experience in the England side, and therefore it was a really good confidence boost for them to get this win. But to be honest, some of the patches of play from New Zealand were pretty frightening, to be honest with you, and they're looking lethal in all areas. So yep, hopefully the Aussies are quaking in their boots, but they might have to quake for a bit longer now that we've had this announcement about the series cancelled, which is such a shame.
Yeah, I mean, not to derail the discussion from the test series, but you do have to wonder what life is going to be like for the Aussies when it comes to Com Games. Like, hopefully we'll be able to see them in quad series in January, which they mentioned during the test series. But, you know, you've got a lot of new faces in the Aussie squad. You've got a new coach. They've had pretty much zero time together. They've had like zero test matches and opportunities to play. So you do have to wonder sort of what state they're going to be in when they do finally hit the court. It's going to be fascinating.
Well, they will have only played New Zealand by the time we get to the January test series. So they might have like one opportunity against us and maybe South Africa and New Zealand again. And then it's going to be the Commonwealth Games. So yeah, I think from an England perspective, we're in a much better position having had 2 series against New Zealand, but we also haven't played Australia. So something interesting there. Another side note. I would love to see our current Roses who are based in Australia play a Diamonds team in like an England, like, you know, they would have to obviously get some other people roped in as well, but that would be pretty cool to see like an All-Stars versus Diamonds match instead.
Yeah. Well, this is what we put on Twitter. You know, this is what the Roses did. We had the All-Stars made up of the import players from the Super League. And, you know, although the scores weren't necessarily particularly close, like it was still a cracking series. I would love to see Netball Australia sort of pull something together with the imports that are there, not necessarily just the Roses, but, you know, you've got the likes of Carla Pretorius who's still there and Sam Wallace. Like, that would be incredible. So, yeah, fingers crossed they can do something. Okay, so back to Cadbury Netball Series. Let's start off with the first test match. Lucy P, what did you make?
Okay, so I had 3 key points for this. First one was England attack. The second one, unsurprisingly, was the New Zealand defence. And the third one was the penalties. So this was New Zealand's only win of the series, and they obviously won by 6 goals and won the first, second and last quarter. I did think in this one that it took both teams quite a while to settle. I don't know if that was a bit of a hangover of the challenging preparation. Obviously, England have been in MIQ and then the Kiwis have been in lockdown. But I did think from that the New Zealand side came out much stronger and slicker and physically stronger, but England have that defensive and mid-court connections which were already established, so they were able to put on that pressure in defence. I was very surprised that Fisher didn't get the start in this one, given the fact that she's been playing in New Zealand. She's had an amazing season with the Steel, and she did eventually come on with 5 minutes to go in the second quarter and then shot 96% and was like, hello, I should have started the game. But yeah,
I think the thing for me for this game, and you've alluded to the defensive and the mid-court connections, which were fab because defensively we were on fire, but the problems were in our attacking end, and there was a lot of chatter on Twitter around this wing attack position. And I do agree with the majority. I think we needed a change in wing attack, and I think this was the perfect opportunity to try someone like Hannah Joseph, who, you know, she's got a couple of caps for England, hasn't she? But from quite a few years ago. So we haven't seen her in a red dress for a number of years. And we have seen what Malcolm's able to put out there in that wing attack position in previous test series. So this was the perfect opportunity and we didn't get it. And I think because the attacking end was struggling so much for so long during this game, I would like to have seen that change.
Yeah, I think as well you saw where the England attack was struggling, especially in the centre passes. Tamsin Greenway did some really good analysis on this on Instagram. If you haven't seen it already, do definitely go and check it out. We were just really, really struggling. And I think that was the lack of a specialist wing attack in that position. But to be fair, though, this has to be credit to the New Zealand defence. I mean, they were on fire. Berger with 4 gains, 3 intercepts, 6 deflections. Jury, 3 gains, 7 deflections, 1 rebound. And what was huge was this pressure from them in defence that was so heavily contrasted with how patient New Zealand were in attack. They had 57% of possession in this game, which was absolutely incredible. And if you think about some of the names that they're also missing in the defensive end as well, that's pretty scary. Another massive issue from an England perspective, I think, is obviously the penalty count. New Zealand were able to keep it super, super clean in this first game particularly. And England had 45 contact penalties to New Zealand's 23 and 16 obstruction penalties to New Zealand's 9. So a total of 61 to 32. That's nearly double the amount of penalties. I just didn't get that at all. Was it just that the New Zealand umpires were different and we weren't adjusting properly? I don't think we're a 60 penalty team at all.
No, I completely agree. And this is where I think it gets really interesting, because I am not one to umpire bash at all. But I do think this is why you have neutral umpires, because the Kiwi umpires are obviously used to seeing those Kiwi players day in, day out in the ANZ, and they're very much used to that style of play and the players individually. So I do think that you're automatically at a slight disadvantage no matter how incredible the umpires are. And there were a few occasions throughout the series, particularly down one end of the court, I think it was in Test 2, where I was just absolutely baffled by some of the calls that were being made. But in the same vein, you can't sit there and bash the umpires and say, oh, they're calling X, Y, and Z, because at the end of the day, you're not going to be able to change that. You need to be able to adjust on court, regardless of what's being called. And I don't think we did. But yeah, exactly. I don't think we're a 60 penalty team.
No, I completely agree. But you don't know who you're going to get umpiring and what they're going to be doing. So it's all about how you respond and how you come back. For me personally, I don't think we saw enough of a change from an England perspective in terms of the penalty count in the second half. And there were just, some of them also were quite cheap penalties as well, which is quite uncharacteristic of us. I don't know if it was just getting back into the swing of things. But what was good was that we got better throughout the series in terms of the penalties. So we did adjust, but it just took us a little bit longer.
Yeah, it took us until after the first test, which just isn't really, it's not what you want at this level. But I think, penalties aside and our attacking problems aside and New Zealand defence aside, what I was really impressed with and what we also saw in this third test was our ability to come back. So we did come back level in that fourth quarter, but then I don't know what happened. Like the wheels just totally fell off, and the last sort of 5-10 minutes of that last quarter was just, I didn't mean to say disastrous. I don't know. It was a bit of a mess, and so we ended up losing by 6.
Yeah, I think it was a moment where we had the opportunity to go one ahead and Cardwell turned and she missed, and then it was like everything started to snowball in a very negative snowball way after that point. And yeah, we went down by 8 goals in 15 minutes in this first test, which is pretty bad.
Yeah, I think the thing for me, what I was most disappointed with in this test is, and it's sort of going back to our attacking woes, is that we kept trying to lob the ball in over the arms of Kelly Jury, who is obviously rangy AF. And you just can't do that. But we weren't able to recognise and respond to that in the moment. It's like they had to wait till the end of the quarter or the end of the half at the end of the game for Jess to then tell them, you need to do X, Y, and Z. And I would have liked someone to have really stepped up in that attacking third to say, like, this isn't working whilst they're in play and not have to wait to be brought off. But yeah, we definitely improved on that in the second and third test. So yeah.
So moving on to test 2, Lucy G, what do you think of this one?
So the 3 key things for me to flip the first one on its head, it's the New Zealand attack, it was the England defence, and our lack of attacking consistency. Those are the 3 major things I took out of this game. So interestingly, we stuck with the same 12, whereas New Zealand had quite a lot of changes in their 12 for this second test. And there was only actually one matchup from test 1 going into test 2, which was Maturo and Guskov. We obviously saw that New Zealand mixed up their attacking options by having Nweke on the bench and Toiava. And I think as much as I love Nweke, it's fair to say that this probably wasn't the debut that she would have wanted. It was a bit of a struggle for her, actually. She was down on her accuracy from what we've seen in the ANZ, and we know that she is an absolute gun. But I think what made her game worse in this debut was actually a really nervous performance from Toiava as well. Because their relationship is so special and it's so critical to the success that Mystics have had last season, if Toiava's off, it was quite clear that put Nweke off as well. And I think their relationship is just so crucial that it impacted her negatively. And I think when you think about it as well, at that point, we had an attacking lineup of Nweke, Maturo and Toiava. And I think it was Netball Post who shared this on Twitter. They have a combined test cap total of 5. And then you look at Jiva Mental on her own, who's got like almost 150. So that lack of international experience really was exposed in the second half of this game. I think overall the New Zealand shooters were below the expected standard, bar Maturo. She had 90%, 9 from 10. She did a cracker. But Wilson was at 71. Nweke was at 80. Tapaya was at 83. You really, really want to be in that high 80s, 90s at this level. So I don't think it was a great day for the New Zealand attack overall.
Yeah, I also felt that Wilson at goal attack didn't really work for me. It was a bit of a square peg, round hole situation. And she's so strong and has been so strong internationally at the goal shooter position. I don't think that's worth trying to bang on with putting her in goal attack. And I think that probably Nolene recognized that in this and wanted to try it out, and then realized actually you got to put your players in the position where they feel most comfortable. She just looked out of sorts. I don't think her ball delivery was up to the standard that it needed to be internationally, and I actually felt Tapaya Selby-Rickett really came out in this series and said, I want a spot in this Silver Ferns squad, because she's been in and out a little bit, and she put her hand up for contention. She can play goal shooter as well, and she's obviously a very strong option in that goal attack position. Although the accuracy is not always there, I think for her it's her playmaking ability and the height that she brings in goal attack that puts her above.
Yeah, see, for me, I'm not necessarily aboard the Tapaya Selby-Rickett train. I think she's a solid option, but I think this has really exposed that gap in goal attack for New Zealand. Obviously, Ekanasio is your starter. I think Maturo is going to be the next starter. Like, she is just going to be unstoppable in a couple of years' time. But Wilson is through and through at the moment a goal shooter. So if you want to have Nweke on, and Maturo was obviously injured, so she couldn't play that second half, Tapaya, for me, she's just not, I don't think she's speedy enough at goal attack. I don't think she's got the agility for that role. Maybe it's just my preference for how I like goal attacks to play. But I think if you've got her partnered with someone like Nweke, who's not a mover, she is a hold-in shooter, I think you do need a kind of whippier, quicker, more agile goal attack out front. And I don't think Tapaya is the answer there. So, yeah, I think it did expose a goal attack hole in the New Zealand lineup.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I personally don't mind Tapaya in goal attack. I think she's just a different option there that's very different from that usual nippy, front cut and drive goal attack. Her ball delivery is so good for me, and she's just got that quick offload. But I think it's good to see what other options there are for New Zealand, because I'm not convinced that Nweke is ready yet for that starting goal shooter bib. And so they need to think about who else is being selected and who else is coming through, and also not losing too much experience in one fell swoop when you think about the fact that you haven't got Bailey Mayers around. We didn't see Jamie Hume in this series either, which is another disappointing one. Yeah, totally agree. I think moving on to the second element of this game, which was the England netball defence, what this highlighted for me when Jiva had to go off with that really horrible nosebleed. I was so sorry for it. That looked really nasty. But when Fran Williams was brought on, I didn't feel like she had much of an impact throughout that whole game. And if you look at it statistically, she played 32 minutes. She only had 1 pickup, 1 game, 1 intercept, whereas Guskov had in 39 minutes, so slightly more court time, but she had 3 games, 2 intercepts and 5 deflections and a rebound. Guskov has more of a measurable impact on court than Williams did in this game. I think also in this game, I do agree with you. I think it wasn't an explosive impact that she had, instantly coming on and making a difference. But that's not really her style of play. She sort of hunts and sits and waits a little bit. And then so that means that she usually comes into her own later on in the game once she's had a chance to read it and figure it out. I think that also in terms of combinations, we haven't really seen her with Guskov at all I can't recall seeing them together much at all. So they probably haven't had that much time playing together. Whereas Mentor and Gusgoth is a much more established combination. And you've also got that leader at the back, that traditional specialist goalkeeper directing you out the front. So I don't know if it was just coming on, I guess, unexpectedly or anything like that. But then we saw her in the third test have a much better game.
I mean, she did have a better game in the third one, but only really came into it in that last quarter for me. And like, you know, you mentioned the combination between Gusgoth and Mentor. Like, yes, that is more established, but actually they haven't played together since the World Cup 2019. And Layla was out in third game or something, like really early on in the competition. So actually, are they that established? They haven't really had that much time together either. So is it about combinations? I don't know. I find Fran, as much as I love her, a little bit behind the pace. She's always sort of chasing, whereas Layla Gusgoth has quicker reactions. I suppose it's just different styles, isn't it? Depending on how you want to play.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, the point of a test series is obviously to test out your combinations and see if they do work. And some people do naturally fit together without much trouble, and then other people don't. So very interesting to see. One thing I did think from this test was it was almost like a game of whack-a-mole in terms of the England issues. So once the attack started to crumble, we sort of fixed that one, and then the defense sort of went, and then we fixed that one. And it was just, it all felt a little bit kind of icky in the first half, and then we got it, and then it was that we didn't have that consistency. And this is something as well that was difficult between tests. So in the first test, Ellie Cardwell had a really standout performance. The next day she came on, she shot 1 from 4 and was sent to the bench. So we didn't see her back up that game the next day. And I think that was also the same in parts with Sophie Drakeford-Lewis. She was found out and then she went off, but then she came back on. And I don't know if we've got attacking options that are reliable. Like, you think of someone like Laura Langman, like she's always going to go out and she's pretty much always going to have a good game. But do we have those options? If you put aside Harton and Houseby, do we have those in the attack line for England at the moment? It all seems a little bit inconsistent.
Yeah, that lack of attacking consistency was really stark for me in this game. Like, all of our shooters do well in individual tests, but just didn't seem to be able to back it up. So it's almost like they come on as impact players and do an absolutely incredible job, but just can't at the moment back up those consecutive starts. But another factor in this, I think, was the impact of Jade Clark in that centre position. And I would question whether the Guthrie-Malcolm centre wing attack combination is correct, because every time Clark came on, she provided consistency. She was cool, calm, collected. She just made the entire team play with so much more fluidity and calmness. And I just think, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's her experience, maybe it's her as a person, I don't know. But the impact of having her on court in centre and then putting Guthrie in wing defence was just phenomenal. And I think having her in centre also impacts the shooters' attacking consistency.
Yeah, I agree. I think Clark's more confident on the feed. And so when you've got, you know, a traditional wing defence playing in wing attack and a traditional wing defence playing in centre, I think that's why it doesn't necessarily work. And we've seen a lot of chat about this as well this week, about this Guthrie-Malcolm, Clark-Malcolm combination. And I don't know if you start with Clark or if you bring her on.
See, I would start with Clark, because I think Clark is neither an attacking specialist or a defensive specialist. Like, she, to me, is a true all-rounder, whereas Laura Malcolm, I would say, is a very defensive attacker, being traditionally wing defence. So that's certainly her strongest position. And same with Serena. She started as wing defence, gone into centre. So if you've got Guthrie and Malcolm, you've got a very defence-heavy attacking section. So I would actually start with Jade, because she's more of an all-rounder, a true all-rounder, and then have Guthrie in wing defence and Malcolm in wing attack. Yeah,
well, you start with Jade when it's Malcolm, but who do you start with when it's Haythornthwaite? That's the other thing, isn't it, that we haven't seen?
Then I would start Guthrie, because Haythornthwaite is an attacker through and through.
Yeah.
So we've just got so many options, man. I love it.
Yeah, definitely. So moving on to test 3. So our points for this one the horrendous quarter two. Yikes. I don't really
Less
know.
said about that, the better.
Definitely. And mounting a comeback, which was huge. And then the coaching decisions on cementing versus rotating. So yeah, Lucy, give us a bit of a rundown on this one.
So let's get it done and out the way so we never have to speak of it again. That second quarter from the Roses was, I can only describe it as shambolic. And I mean that with all the love in my heart. It was terrible. To score 4 goals in 15 minutes of international netball is just like, I think everyone can appreciate that is just not good enough. But what really impressed me, and what I think is the biggest takeaway that England have from this series, is the strength of character that we showed. We won the second half 33-19.
Yikes.
I just, like, for me, 5-10 years ago, if we were down by 10 at half time, we would have lost the game by 20 or 30. So to be able to turn that around and win so significantly, even if we hadn't have won the series, like, that would have been the biggest takeaway for me, that we are now able to claw ourselves back. And I don't think we've had that ability before.
And we've also got this as a reference point now. So, okay, it's the Commonwealth Games semi-final. We're 10 goals down at halftime against New Zealand. We're saying, okay, guys, we've done this before. We know what we can do. And they've got this real grit, which is so incredible, because it's not something, I don't think you can really teach that. I think the players just have to have that and bring that to the table. And something really special about this particular group, that they felt able to do that, even missing our 3, what you would imagine to be our 3 starting attacking players, that team absolutely clawed and dragged themselves back into this game to then come out to win by 4 was just amazing.
Yeah, and I agree. I don't think it's something that you can teach per se, but I do think it's something that Jess has instilled within the group. And I actually think it was a coaching masterclass from her. And, we had a little snippet of her halftime talk where she did give them a bit of a spraying, and, bloody rightly so, like, geez. But they then took that and they used that as fuel to then go ahead and absolutely kill it. So I have to take my hat off to Jess as well. I think to be able to create that attitude and that desire to win and determination in your team, that's hard, man. That's hard.
Yeah. And remember, we didn't see her in the last series against New Zealand because she wasn't there. She was at home and she was coaching remotely. So it's actually very, very interesting to get more of an insight into her as a coach. I feel like we know a lot about Nolene as a coach and how she decides things and what her sort of ethos is, but I don't feel we know as much about Jess until this series. I think I've seen a lot of her and I'm feeling it. I'm liking the vibes.
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of people on the fence or not really committing to whether they like her coach's style or not, but I think this series is a great demonstration of what she's trying to work on with the Roses, and I am living for it.
Yeah, definitely. So talking a little bit about Jess Thirlby, she seemed much more keen on cementing in this test and the whole series in general, really, rather than experimenting. And although we don't have the Australia series anymore, the chances of Rhea Dixon getting out on court in that series was pretty much 0. So I did find it surprising that we didn't see her at all in this. And it was a clear indication, I think, that Jess pretty much knows who her 12 is for the Commonwealth Games, and she wants to cement that and really get those combinations to be absolutely solid, rather than testing out new combinations and blooding in those other players as well.
Yeah, 100%. I think Oyasola is another example of that, because I mean, she's an absolute gun. Like, I would have loved to have seen her get out on court, but there's clearly a preference for having certain players out on court, and I do think that's an indication of who's going to get selected in July next year. And on that as well, it's interesting to note that Laura Malcolm was the only person for the Roses to play every single minute of every test in this series. And although she did switch from wing attack to centre at one point, that is another really clear statement that she is going to select Malcolm because she wants to have someone who is incredibly versatile and can play all three positions. And although she's not your first choice wing attack, she could be your second or your third choice. And that's why she's invested in her so heavily in that wing attack position, because she knows that she's going to take her and she needs to have that versatility to a really good level for the big games.
I would say though as well that it's all very well and good having an idea and really pushing on with those players and cementing those combos as we think Jess is. But actually, you don't know who's going to get injured. You don't know what's going to happen between now and next year. So maybe testing out, I mean, I would have loved to see more of Hannah Joseph. I know we've mentioned that already. You know, who knows what can happen. And so having that bank of people who've played at this level is possibly better than having a smaller group who know each other really well, especially when you consider the fact that lots of those connections are established and they have been established for some time. You saw in the videos, there was like some video of previous times when England have played New Zealand, and the people you saw there were like Serena, Jiva, and the New Zealand team looked completely different. They didn't have barely any of those players who were playing in those days. So it will be interesting to see. I just hope that we have secured that depth enough across all the positions. So moving on to our standout players. Ooh, very exciting. So first up, England. Lucy G, who was your standout for this one?
There was no other option for me other than Sophie Drakeford-Lewis. And I think majority of the netball world would probably agree with me here. This was a coming of age series for her in terms of her international performance. She stepped up big time. In Test 1, she only played 24 minutes, but she shot 100% 4 from 4. In Test 2, she played 45 minutes, shot at 100% again, 9 from 9. And in Test 3, she played 54 minutes and shot 92%, 11 from 12. I think what I loved about her, particularly in the second and third games, was her ability to open up the circle and be a real threat to the defenders. She just found herself with oodles of space all of the time. And no matter who she was partnered with in goal shooter, she always made it work. And, you know, the commentators were absolutely fangirling her, and I was so here for it. It was incredible. And I think as well, when you compare her very, very early Test series against South Africa, you compare that to now, the difference is outrageous. And she's only 22. So it's going to be big, big things for her. I think this is an outstanding series for Sophie.
Yeah, she really put her mark down in this one. And I thought she combined really nicely with George Fisher, because George Fisher has this great combination of being able to hold, but also put in these like little cheeky moves. And I think it was a bit like the combination between Sophie and Kim Borgia, and she felt quite comfortable with that. But then she slotted in nicely with Cardwell as well. I would have liked to see her at wing attack. Obviously, she's an extremely accurate shooter, but she doesn't have such a high volume. But if we could harness her playmaking ability and just her pure speed in the wing attack position, maybe that would be a good option when you're thinking about the likes of Jo Harton and Helen Housby out the front as well.
Oh my God, that's just dreamy. Yeah, love to see that. Her court craft is amazing. Let's do it. Jess, let's do it, please.
I'm not sure she's listening. You never know.
Who have you gone for, Liz?
So I went for the ever reliable Dr. Layla Guskoth. I thought she was outstanding. She didn't play a huge amount in the second and third test, but she played 60 minutes in the first test, 5 gains, 4 intercepts, 6 deflections, 2 pickups. And there was a point in the second test, particularly, when it was basically Layla Guskoth versus the Silver Ferns. I think somebody put that out on Twitter as well. She was holding the team together completely. 3 gains, 2 intercepts, 6 deflections, and she only played 39 minutes in that test. She, for me, is just a complete shoo-in for the Commonwealth Games. I actually would have her as captain. That's just my personal opinion, due to her leadership experience and just general awesomeness. And I think she's got that starting goal defence bib locked down, to be honest with you. She is a live wire. Her athleticism is off the charts. She just does this amazing acrobatics to get to the ball. And you think, how on earth did she get there from all the way over there? And also this combination with Jiva, who we know know has just signed with the Magpies for 2 more years as well. That is a potential combination that is very hot for England and is giving me lots of good vibes.
Honestly, that combination, when they started in the first game, my jaw actually hit the floor. I just could not, but they were fire.
Yeah.
And I think Jiva's changed the way that she plays in recent years. We know her previously for coming out on the fly, for hunting the ball, but she's certainly changed that to be much more of like a tight on man defender. But I think what Jiva does complements Layla so perfectly, and it allows Layla to come out of all those sort of flashy interceptions and deflections and this, that and the other. So yeah, the two of them together is scary stuff.
Yeah. And then you think about Stacey Francis-Bayman, who we've got coming in the mix as well. It's getting juicy. So moving on to New Zealand, Lucy G, who was your pick for your standout player for them?
You know what? I actually found this quite difficult to pick for New Zealand, because I think everyone had a pretty solid series, but no one necessarily really excelled. But I have gone for the ever reliable Sam Winders. She played an awful lot of minutes, 52 in the first, 55 in the second, and the full 60 on the third game. And although she's really strong in defence, what I noticed in this series was actually how instrumental she was in attack for New Zealand, particularly when she was in centre. At times, she was one of the only ones who was really driving the ball forward, and she was one of the only players who could break through the incredible defensive pressure that we put on them. So I think a lot of the attacking credit has to go to her. She didn't really have any particularly flashy statistics against her name. Like, you know, she wasn't coming out of intercepts left, right and centre, but she was just solid, reliable, classic steady Eddie. Loved her.
Yeah, for me, it's the leads covered by her as well. She's so quick in wing defence, and in centre, she really does give that, like you were saying, the drive forward, but also that calmness. I think sometimes people can get a little bit overexcited in the midcourt. I think when you get Poi in the centre, it starts to get a little bit like, oh, things are really exciting and everything's moving very quickly. But Winders is solid. She does the job in centre. And also she's fearless. She doesn't care who she's coming up against. Doesn't matter if it's Serena Guthrie, Jade Clark, whoever it is. She just goes out there and she always consistently performs. Yeah, I've got a lot of time for Sam Winders. Big fan.
Yeah, she reminds me of Jade Clark in that sense, actually. Like, just really reliable, consistent.
Yeah.
So who have you gone for, Luce?
So again, I also struggled a little bit, but I think that it's difficult to look past the debut of Tiana Maturo. I mean, to come out in your first Silver Ferns cap and shoot at 89%, and get player of the match. It's a fairy tale, basically, isn't it? And I think it was just such a nice story with her mum having played for the Silver Ferns, and then her having her debut against England where she was born.
And being matched up against Jiva, who used to babysit her.
I know. That was adorable. I absolutely loved seeing that. And for me as well, so she had 10 goal assists in the first game, again, an intercept, a deflection, and 2 pickups. I mean, what is that from a goal attack? That's crazy. And obviously she played the full 60 minutes. So that defensive pressure is incredible from your goal attack. It's like Houseby-esque, exactly what you want to see. And in test 2, she only played 35 minutes coming off with an injury, but she shot from 9 from 10 at 90% with another 10 goal assists, but this time in 35 minutes. So she was improving. She's got that real quick offload, but she also will turn and shoot as well. And I think the accuracy has really improved and come on since we saw her in the ANZ this season. Yeah, I just think it doesn't get better than player of the match in your Silver Ferns debut. And I really am convinced that she is the best second option for New Zealand in goal attack after Ekenasio.
Oh, hands down. Like, give her a few more caps under her belt. I honestly think she'll be unstoppable. What I love most about her, I think she's such an intelligent player. And she kind of reminds me in a way, in terms of that intelligence, of Steph Wood. You know, they're such crafty players. They absolutely tear up the court. And I'm so excited to see her. I hope we have, 10, 15 years of Maturo. I think she's phenomenal.
Absolutely. So before we wrap up, Luce, the big question, if you had to pick a Commonwealth Games squad of 12 for England now, who would it be?
Oh my God, this is so actually so difficult.
Yeah.
Okay, but I have gone for, right, shooters, 4 shooters. Harton,
Yeah.
Housby. I've gone for Fisher and Sophie Drakeford-Lewis.
Yeah.
In the midcourt, I've gone for Nat Haythornthwaite, Serena Guthrie, Jade Clark, and Laura Malcolm.
Mm-hmm.
And in defence, I've gone for Layla Gusketh, Jiva Mentor, Stacey Francis Bayman, and Fran Williams. Now, I will say this is the squad that I think will be picked and not necessarily the squad that I would pick myself. If I were to pick it myself, I would like to see Imogen Allison in the mix somewhere, but then who do you take out? And the same as Beth Cobden, like who do you take out to put one of those two in? Our midcourt is just stacked. But defensively, I'm going to go out on a limb and I would like to see someone replace Williams, and I would like to see that either be Vicky Oyosola or wildcard Fumi Fidoju.
Wildcard.
I know she's so young. She's like, what, 19, 20? But she is the future of the England defensive circle. She's going to be an absolute gun. And I'd like to see her get that exposure, because when she is unleashed on the world, mate, watch out. It's going to be crazy.
Yeah, I'm with you on all of the above. I would like to mention Cardwell as well. I mean, she can come on and absolutely shoot the lights out. But I do think being primarily a GS and potentially not the strongest option at G, I do think she might struggle to get selected. But I wouldn't be surprised to see her in there as well. What
about you for the Silver Ferns squad?
Okay, so if I had to pick shooters, I'd go Wilson, Ekanasio, Maturo, and Tapia Selby-Rickett. Mid-court, I'd say Gordon, Winders, Saunders, and Crampton. And in defence, Watson, Berger, Fitzpatrick, and Jury. I will say as well that I would like to see Katrina Rory potentially over Kelly Jury if she's back in the Silver Ferns. Nweke for me is a possibility. I think we need to wait and see how her next season goes. But because of her age, I don't think it will be an issue if she didn't go to this Commonwealth Games or World Cup. I think that she might be ready for the next one after that. We saw her come on. We know that she's incredible at ANZ level, but I think maybe just needs a few more years under her belt before she's ready internationally. And also in the midcourt, you've obviously got Kimmy Poi, Claire Kirsten, and the wealth of talent that New Zealand have coming through. So yeah, it's a good thing that I'm not a New Zealand selector, to be honest, because I'd have a headache over that.
Yeah, man, these guys are stacked. Like both teams are absolutely stacked. The only thing with the Silver Ferns, I do think they could do with another goal shooter option. Like you say, if Nweke is not ready, I actually 100% agree with all of that. But I do think that exposes a hole in goal shooter, because Ekanasio, Maturo and Tapia primarily all goal attacks. So if Wilson's not on her game, who do you then have back there? So yeah, interesting.
Well, that is all we have time for today. I'm sure we've gone on a little bit too much about this, but we honestly could write a book about this test series. It was amazing. So thank you so much, everyone, for listening to this special bonus episode of Quarter Time Podcast. We hope you enjoyed it, and please let us know what you thought on social media.
Yeah, 100%. And don't forget, we've got some more international netball coming up. We've got the Jamaica series against England coming up in November and December. And we've also got Fast 5 happening in October as well. So make sure you get your tickets for that. And don't forget to follow us on social media at Quarter Time Pod.
And we'll be doing an extra special bonus episode for the VNSL signing announcements once those teams come out. So definitely stay tuned. If there's anyone in particular you would like us to interview, please let us know. Send us a message, or you can email us. No one really emails us, do they?
No.
Could do. Yeah, send us an email. Why not? quartertimepod@gmail.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much for listening, guys. We'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye.